Okay everyone, this is going to be a shorter video, but I just had to address this in some way. But first and foremost, I just want to say that my Skull Knight video that I put up, everything known so far, hit over 100,000 views, which is just absolutely insane to me. And just given the fact that I really worked hard on that video and tried to make it as informative as I possibly could and put out something good, and getting a positive response that I have is just like absolutely awesome. And I have nothing but absolute gratitude for everybody that watched the video and liked it and everything. Even if you didn't like it, you know, supporting me for that couple of seconds that you did before you clicked off. Like, it's just really, really cool. Never thought I'd have a video with 100K views. So first and foremost, thank you for that. But when I put up my Skull Knight video, I really didn't expect the amount of comments I would get about a particular subject. One thing I noticed as the comments started piling up is this strange theory that Skull Knight and Guts are one and the same. Meaning that underneath the armor of Skull Knight is an older or alternative timeline version of our protagonist Guts. I thought this was really silly in the comments and I just kind of wrote it off, but then more and more and more comments started popping up with the same theory, which is a theory I'd never heard of before. Honestly, I had no idea this was such a prevalent theory in the Berserk fandom, and honestly, I'm still completely at a loss as to how or why people think this. Skull Knight and Guts are completely different in personality, physique, fighting prowess, etc., but okay. So let's entertain the idea for the sake of good fun and try to figure out what the hell these people are talking about. I think the theory mostly comes from the idea that time and history repeats itself and is always following the will of causality, that things are destined to happen and can't be changed no matter how much we try. Yet Skull Knight and then later Guts are characters that actively fight against this setup and occasionally cause things to happen that weren't predestined simply due to their presence. So people are thinking that Skull Knight is Guts, who died using the Berserker armor and can now travel back in time or something and try to correct the major events of this timeline. And this would explain why he could see the flow of time to an extent and be at all these important moments. But this theory does not hold up at all, in my opinion, even in the slightest. First, let's look at something that Flora says. That time indeed does repeat itself, but it's not a circle, meaning it's not the literal same thing happening over and over, just things happening similarly. She says time is like a spiral, changing ever so slightly each time it goes around. So though events may be playing out similarly to the era when Skull Knight was a human, it's not literally the same exact events. And then some people go so far as to say that Flora is a future version of Shurikei, and just no. They don't look similar at all, and you would think that they would have at least a similar odd that they would be able to sense, but Shurikei never picked up on something like that. Now, I can understand the relationship between Flora and Skull Knight could be a precursor or parallel to the relationship between Shurikei and Guts, and Flora wanted her pupil to team up with him for purposes relating to the importance of them being together. But as Flora being a literal adult version of Shurikei, that just seems like way too much of a stretch to me. And again, why would she just be chilling here, not actively doing something to help? Anyways. Skull Knight again has been shown to have a completely different personality than Guts. Skull Knight speaks in all cryptic riddles and is very calm and collected at all times. Guts either speaks bluntly, out of turn, or just stays silent. Virtually the complete opposite. Skull Knight also uses a much smaller sword, which would make no sense for Guts to use since he has always used one with a gigantic blade ever since he was a child practicing with a sword made for an adult. Guts wouldn't suddenly change fighting styles as an undead skeleton. And then we have the Berserker armor. Skull Knight's current appearance is likely a result of him dying whilst wearing the Berserker armor. Okay. But when he died, the armor appeared with the helmet of a skull, symbolizing and representing what Skull Knight saw his inner beast of darkness as the armor attaches to that part of you and shifts its appearance to resemble such. Guts' beast of darkness is a wolf, and thus the armor changed when Guts wore it after the Skull Knight did. If the armor does kill Guts and gives him an astral presence similar to the Skull Knight, it would be more like a wolf and not a skeleton. Which leads into all the theories of Skull Knight being King Geyserich, which I won't go into now as I already covered that in my Skull Knight video you can check out, but Berserk wore a skull helmet as well, so it would make sense that that's how he saw himself when he went into battle and conquered, and that's why his Beast of Darkness was represented in like a skeleton, like a Grim Reaper of sorts, and so the Berserker armor continued to represent that when he wore it. Also, if Guts were Skull Knight, wouldn't Zod have recognized him right away? Since Zod and Skull Knight have supposedly fought for hundreds of years, and Zod knew what the Berserker armor was, but when Zod meets Guts for the first time, he's shocked that a human like him could harm him. Or what about the Eclipse rescue? Why would Skull Knight attack Void first and not go directly towards Femto? Guts would take this priority over all else. And post-Eclipse, Skull Knight wonders if Guts has a connection with the elves, sensing their lingering presence near Godo's cave. Wouldn't Guts have already known that, and thus he wouldn't need to make mention of it? And what kind of point or insult would it be for Slan to call him Your Majesty? That's not anything that would have any stinging meaning or symbolism to Guts. Though I could still see Guts calling Slan a whore princess. The main thing here for me is that having this time travel element or alternate dimension thing would take so much away from not only the Skull Knight's character, but also the themes and meanings in Berserk. The idea that a timeline repeats is fun if its meaning is that things are constantly similar. But if you take that to mean at some point the world will eventually end and then everything will start over the same way with the same exact players, I just don't like that as much. Skull Knight being either the Guts or Griffith of his era symbolically is a great concept, but if he turns out to literally be Guts, then I think that takes so much away about him. And also, it's very Deus Ex Machina to the point where I feel like all the progress and struggle never really mattered. If we can just reset the timeline or go to an alternate one, then what was the point of making it this far? An important message I always got from Berserk is that you can't change what's happened, and a part of the point of the story is building yourself past and working on the trauma that you experience from past events. As Guts says, even if you painstakingly put things back together, they still won't be the way they were before. Time is always moving forward, and we can't go back. All we can do is continue working towards being stronger in the future. And if we can't stop causality, we will damn sure put a dent in it and stand up in the face of everything determined to drag us down. I don't know about you guys, but let me know what you think. Those are my brief thoughts on the Skull Knight is Guts theory. I think it's pretty silly. I think it's pretty ridiculous and that it doesn't make sense. But I know a lot of people out there think that this is true. And if you do, please comment down below as to why you think Skull Knight is Guts and all that. And we can have a fun conversation. No disrespect in the comments. Don't call anybody stupid or an idiot if, that's what they think. Everyone's free to have their own theories about whatever story they like. Let's just have a fun conversation below as to why or why not this could be the case. You know my stance. Let me know yours. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you next time.